Hello, fellow book readers. My name is John, and today we are going to do a book review for the book Empire of Dawn, which is the third and final book in the Empire of the Vampire trilogy by Jay Kristoff. It was just released this month, and I just finished it a couple days ago. So we're going to do a non-spoiler review, and then at the end of this video, I'm going to do a more spoiler sort of review, I would say, or just give some spoiler thoughts. But I do want to do a non-spoiler review because I know a lot of people haven't read this book yet, and I don't want to spoil everything. This is actually the first book review I'm ever doing on this channel, which is fun. But before I begin, let me give you some brief overview thoughts on the series as a whole, starting with the first book, Empire of the Vampire. I thought Empire of the Vampire was a very good book. I like pretty much everything about it, but the pacing. The book has some just small pacing problems. Again, this is just a personal thing for me. I didn't love that we got like parts where we found out how our main character was becoming a Silver Saint, which is the forces that like hunt the vampires. And then like parts where it was like post Silver Saint time, where he found the Holy Grail and he was trying to save and rescue her. It was really weird the way that was like sort of like you'd get one part and then you'd get another part and then one part and then another part and then one part and then another part, and I just didn't like the way it was paced. I thought it was weird. I would have preferred it more linearly structured, although I still did love the interview part. But again, I still really liked that book. It was a good book. I enjoyed my time there, so I moved on to the second book, which was Empire of the Damned. Empire of the Damned fixed all the problems I had with Empire of the Vampire, which again was only one, the pacing issue. It did this by introducing another point of view character named Selene, who is our main character's sister. And I just thought it was more linearly structured. It was still sort of the same interview of a vampire style storytelling, but it was just more linearly structured, and I thought it just flowed better as a story. And I thought the end of this book, the end of Empire of the Damned, was so strong. That book was great. I loved Empire of the Damned. If you watched what was my favorite book in every year since 1990, you will know that was my favorite book of 2024. That was released in 2024. Not my favorite book that I read in 2024, but that was my favorite book that was released in 2024. And that brings us to Empire of the Dawn, which after reading Empire of the Damned, which I only read like last month, I was super excited for. And I have to say that it delivered for me. Like, this book got 5 stars. It's a perfect book for me. I loved my time reading this book. I flew through this book, finished it in like 3 days or like 2.5 days. Like, this book was chunky too. It's close to 800 pages, and I just devoured this book. Loved it. Everything about it, basically. I say that to say that I don't think this book is going to land for everybody. I do think that everybody's going to love the first 700 pages of this book. But the end, this is the series finale. The most important part, does he land the plane? For me, he did land the plane. I think everything that happened in the end was very well foreshadowed. If you read the first 2 books and you think you know what's going to happen, you probably are right. That's going to be disappointing to some people, but it wasn't disappointing to me. I thought it worked really well. And I say this to say, was the end a little bit safe? Yes. But it made me smile. It made me happy. Now, it doesn't mean it's all roses and good. I'm not spoiling anything. But it did make me smile. And even though I did have some small quibbles and flaws with it, it made me smile. And that was the most important thing. For me, it really worked. He landed the plane. I quite enjoyed the end of this book. But let's go over some other stuff in this book. The pacing. This book is paced so well. Like, it's so long, but it really felt much shorter than it is. And it's balls to the walls. And it's not all action. There's a ton of great character and emotional moments here. So, yeah, I thought it was paced really, really well. Characters. The returning characters all work really, really good. And I think there's none of them that get like left behind where they feel like a background character. They all bring something to the table. So, every single one of them brings something to the table. And not only that, but we get some new characters who aren't just like background characters, they also bring stuff to the table. And it all works really, really well. Let's go on to the plotting of the book. I think this book it's divided into 6 parts, like the other 2 books in the series, but it does have like a bonus part at the end. That's a little bit longer than the bonus part normally is for the other books. Still not super long though. It's only like 15 pages or so. But yeah, I think all 6 parts are structured really soundly. I do think the first part is a little bit not misplaced. That's not the right word. It feels a little bit more like fodder, but it is important. And the part itself, as a single part, is great. Like the stuff that happens in the part is great. It did feel less important than the other 5 parts, though. But that's besides the point. It doesn't really matter because it was good enough on its own where it didn't have to feel as important, if that makes sense. Does the book address the cliffhanger of the end of Empire of the Damned in a satisfying way? Yes, and kind of no. Like, I love the way that cliffhanger was resolved. I did think it was resolved a little bit too, not quickly, like a little too neatly maybe, but it worked. It still worked. The cliffhanger was resolved in a, I would say, satisfying way that made sense. And I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but for me, the cliffhanger was resolved in a way that made sense within the plot of its structure. Let's talk about another thing that really stands out about this book. The setting and the atmosphere. Just like the other 2 books, Jay Kristoff is a master at the atmosphere and the setting of this world. He reminds me a lot of Rachel Gillig in that sense, where the atmosphere and the setting can almost like be the strongest part of the book. It just feels alive, and it matches the tone of the story. It sets things up in a really great way. I think Jay Kristoff is really, really good at that, and I think in this book particularly, it's taken up to an even higher level than in the other 2 books, where I could just see everything like clearly in my head, and it all worked really well, just establishing the setting. The action, yeah, there's some really, really intense action here, just some real intense action, and it's really good. Both just like the physicality of it and the magic of it, and the stakes. The stakes in this book are, top level, and the stakes of the action, you can feel them, and it all works and it all pays off in satisfying ways. Does this book run the emotional gauntlet? Yeah, I think it does. There was happy moments, there were sad moments, there was humorous moments, there was critical thinking moments. There was just a lot of emotion packed into one book. And I think it ran that gauntlet really well. And I love when a book runs an entire gauntlet. Did I cry during this book ever? I didn't. I did not. But it did. There are moments that could make you cry. I'll say that. It's not a book that's not going to make anybody cry. Like, there's definitely heavy-hitting moments here that could make you cry. They just didn't make me shed a tear for one reason or another. I think mostly because this book, while it does pause at different parts, I was always excited to just, like, continue on. And I just didn't hit that sort of crying emotion, even though it did make me sad at different points in time, if that makes sense. Okay, and finally, are all the loose ends like tied up? Yes, they are. I think he does a good job cleaning up all the loose ends. There's nothing that's going to leave you like super wondering. Now that's not to say that the book isn't. You can't think about the future of like these characters, because there is stuff that you can definitely think about after the series. But I think it addresses all the questions that it asks. So that is, if that's something that you're concerned about, like, is this book going to address everything that he sets up? It does. It definitely does. And I think it all works really well. And like I said, the foreshadowing here is just really, really strong and good. I love the way he foreshadowed this entire series. But with that said, let's get into some spoilers, because let's face facts. I really struggle to talk about books without talking about spoilers, so that's what we're going to do now. Let's address the end of this book and the climax. So in the end, we find out that Gabriel and Selene have basically lied about a good chunk of the story they told John Francis, or the historian. I don't exactly know how to pronounce his name. The historian that was chronicling their adventure while they were imprisoned. And they're actually working together. Selene and Gabriel. They don't hate each other, which I think if you've been paying attention to the series, makes sense. I thought that was well foreshadowed throughout both books. I mean, there was plenty of instances of where we saw the moth I think like their fighting was, you know, somewhat like phony. Like you could tell, especially when he like broke her mask to like free her, but like didn't like kill her. Like I think you could really tell. Like yeah, he was just trying to get that mask off her face. I think there's other parts where you can really tell what's going on with these two characters and how it all sets up. And obviously they're in cahoots with Dior, the Holy Grail, who is, you know, we can know at the end of Empire Damned is still alive. So I really like that. Now, I will say he did play it very safe where he brought back almost every character that died in this book, which was weird. Not weird. Weird's not the right word. Which I don't think I loved all that much, but it did make me smile. There was only one death. Like I didn't have a problem with him bringing them all back. There was only one death that I would have stuck, and that was Princess Rainey's. Because I think that sort of tarnishes a little bit the Marin plotline that he had set up, and I think the Marin plotline was super strong. I loved the Marin plotline front to back, and I thought the way it was resolved was really, really, really good. Like I loved that where like she dies in the wedding, like post wedding. I thought that was so good, and I thought like, so like when we realized Princess Rainey's is still alive, does that mean Marin wasn't even like there the entire time, or did Gabriel just sneak in and kill her immediately, or was he able to tell Dior immediately without her knowing? Did the wedding even really like happen like that? We don't know, and we're never going to know. It's a question that we just won't know. Like, how much of this did he lie? Now, Gabriel did tell the historian John Francis that he told the truth for most of the story. There was a couple things he changed around to prolong, because he needed to prolong this storytelling till Dior's army could arrive, because Dior is part of the Highland. She's like half shifter, half human. So she can shift into a great wolf, and we find that out doing here, which I thought was really cool. And that's how she survived dying. Because she's a half shifter, so she was able to survive the broken neck that she got, which I thought was really clever and really well done, like a lot. And like I said, the Marin storyline front to back, really, 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 really strong. I love the lie about Patience being alive, because that was just perfect. That was like the perfect way to fool this John Francis historian. He's very like, he can feel emotion. Like he very much feels bad for Gabriel when he tells this story, and it's just perfect way to get him like get his guard down a little bit, because it was like the right amount of lie, and the way Gabriel told it was just perfect. And for the foreshadowing for the lies, I just love the names, because he's like the Black Lion, right? Lion lying, like, come on, like he's basically telling you the entire time. He's like, don't call me that. I am the Black Lion. It's like, yeah, because you're lying to him, like. And the last Liath or Liath, I'm not sure how you say it exactly. I mean, it's right in her name. She's lying also. It just, the foreshadowing there is just so good. It's just so good. He put it right in our faces, and so that's why I don't think you can get mad at the ending, because like the foreshadowing was there. They were just lying the entire time. Oh, and I say this to say that like even the story they were telling, even though it's not all true, it's just so good. Like the fight of Augustine, that was so great. And don't get me wrong, like towards the end of it, I was like, okay, he's doing a great job with the carnage, like who's dying and who's not. And then at the end of that battle, just like everybody dies, and I was just like, this is too much. Like this just feels like carnage for carnage's sake. And that is another reason why I loved the ending, because yeah, it wasn't carnage for carnage's sake. He was just lying because he wanted to make John Francis feel bad for him again. Like perfect. Again, there are some people that still die, like Prince Philippi. I'm not sure how you say his name. Dead, still dead. And I think you had to have some people that stayed dead. But I would have wished that Princess Rainey's also stayed dead. And she didn't. I loved the Ash Drinker storyline with the sword. Again, it felt kind of like fodder here. Like, like this doesn't seem like it's necessary. But I thought it really worked, because I just think the sword as a character is a great character. I love that he was able to make the sword like it's sort of its own character. And I do think like I forget what the name of that first city they were in part 1. I do think like that whole part is like very interesting, and it flows really well, sort of independently from the rest of the story. I don't think it does like a great job connecting it, but it flows so good on its own. And I do love Charlotte, who's a character I think is new that we get introduced to in this book in that town. And she's Gabriel's cousin. I think she was like a really, really strong character, and I really like what she brought to the table. Now, her romance with Lachlan, not sure how you say his name, did feel a little bit forced, but I still thought it was good. The romance didn't really matter in the end, to be honest. So, blah. And I love how the whole premise is that he's the last Silver Saint, but he's not even the last Silver Saint because probably lying about that, and we know Lachlan's still alive. The Aaron Baptiste storyline was filled with super emotion, and they both die, but then we found out that neither one of them actually died. And I'm happy for that because the way they died was didn't love that they both died. I would have liked if just one of them died, but both of them dying felt like too much. So I love that they're both still alive. It really works. I thought Phoebe, whatever. Like, I'm glad she's still alive because she was a character that was very easy to root for the entire series. The 9 Lives of Selene, which is part 2 of this, I think that's like a super strong part. Like, I love that part. I loved Selene's like storyline in this, where you find out she like what is going on with the Asane, how they're actually kind of evil, and the Black Veil isn't like part of Death's Day, and Marin is sort of tricking them all. Like I said, I love Marin's whole storyline, but I love like the background we get on it with Selene, who is just a really kick-ass character. This is controversial, but it's either her or Dior is my favorite character. One of those two, and I have a really hard time picking between them. It depends like what part I'm at. Gabriel is a solid third, and I don't know what that means for me because I feel like Gabriel's probably the most popular character, but he's solidly third for me behind those two, who I adore. I think they're just great characters, and I really love both of their storylines in here. And I love like how her master here, Wolfric, attempts to kill her because she wanted to like save this prince who she was in love with, and she kills him before he can tell her like what the Blackened Veil actually is. And I love that the Blackened Veil is different from Death's Day. That was a really clever thing to do, because I think the Asane, like we were just too entrained to think they were good, and it's like clearly there's something more sinister going on with them. And in the end, it's only sinister to certain people because like what they believe they're doing is actually good for everybody. Although I don't think Ragnarok is actually great for everybody, but in their opinion, it was. And I love that we got more Voss in this. I was concerned that we might not get like a lot of Voss in this, the Forever King, but we did. We got a good chunk of Voss in this, and I thought his character was really well done. If it was the truth or not, and we don't actually know like what was true about what Voss said and what he didn't say, but I like to think the crux of what he said was true, and we know certain parts of it because he was the one that caused Death's Day. We did find that out, and I thought what caused Death's Day was really clever, and I thought it was resolved really well here. So yeah, I don't have too many like problems with this book at all. Like, and I gave it 5 stars. I don't give 5 stars out very often. Like I said, 5 stars perfect for me. So usually that means it has no problems. But sometimes they can have like one small problem if the peak is really high, and if they land the plane really well. And that's what I thought this book did. I thought he landed the plane really well. Although again, like I said, it's a very safe ending, and not everybody's gonna think the plane was landed well. But for me, it landed really, really well. And again, it just made me smile. So for me, the end, the climax of this book, the Marin storyline, the Selene storyline, sort of Ash Drinker, the humor there, and some of the character work here, and again, it just landed the plane really well. Made up for like the small quibbles that I have with it, specifically Princess Rainey surviving. I don't think Princess Rainey should have survived, but it's a small quibble in an overall like big story, and I don't think that drags it down at all, really, for me. And I love that the interview with the vampire, like sort of influence of this series, is really present still in this book. I didn't expect it to be. Like I thought we were going to get away from that like much earlier on than we actually do, but we don't. And I think it actually ended up working out really, really well. Like I really enjoyed still the interview with the vampire-esque style of storytelling that went on in this book. I think it's actually the best of that style that I've ever read. So take that for what it's worth. So yeah, this is just a perfect book, and I loved this series. I think this is a rare instance where the series gets better with every book. Like I said, I thought Empire of the Damned was my book of 2024. That came out in 2024. That's my favorite book that I read in 2024 and 24, but it was my favorite book that came out in 2024. I think this is my favorite book that came out in 2025. I gave both this and Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales 5 stars. But I think if I'm being honest, I slightly prefer this one. But it's really, really, really close. And I know I already did the video where I ranked my favorite book from that came out in every year. And for 2025, I gave it to Emily Wilde because I didn't think I was going to be able to get to this until next year. But my library actually, put it on Libby like this week, and I had the notification on. As soon as it came, I clicked. I was like, "Oh yes!" Immediately, yes. And I devoured that book. It's so good. What a great end. And I'm somebody who doesn't give a lot of perfect books, a lot of 5-star ratings to end series books. I have where I tier rank every end series book that I've read in fantasy, and I only had one book in like the perfect tier, and that was Kingdom of Ash. So this would be the second. This is my second favorite series finale I've ever read, I guess, which, great. I love that. And I'll link that video down below, actually. But, again, thanks for watching. I don't do a lot of book review videos. This is actually the first one I've ever done, but I just reviewed a single book for a whole video. But I want to do more of that in the future. I have a whole backlog of books that I want to get on this channel and just do single book reviews for. So I thought this was a good place to start with that. Oh, and let me know down below if you enjoyed this book, or if you didn't enjoy this book, or if you're excited to read this book, or if you enjoyed the series, or what you thought. What did you think about the end of this book? Just let me know. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week.